Okay, so this next video lecture is about our module number 3, entitled Annual Income Tax for Individuals Earnings Purely Compensation Income. So in our module 2, you were taught about how to compute for the taxable income and the tax due, okay, for this income tax individuals. Okay, in this module, we will be presenting to you how to file in the BIR, okay, as well as the required form that you will fill in, okay, in filing your income tax return as individuals who is earning purely compensation income. So this is in the case of an employee. Okay. So here we will be discussing about the BIR form 1700, the documentary requirements, as well as the procedures for filing. Okay, so to start with, let us discuss about the BIR form 1700. So this form is also known as the annual income tax return for our individuals who are earning purely compensation income. So this can also include non-business or non-professional or non-profession related income. But basically, this is mainly for the employee or employees, okay, who are or individuals who are purely or earning purely compensation income. So that is the only source of their income. So according to the BIR, this return or this form will be filed by every resident citizen, okay, who are deriving their compensation income from all sources, or even for the resident alien and non-resident citizen with respect to the compensation income that they earned here in the Philippines. So basically, if a person, whether he is a resident citizen, resident alien, or non-resident citizen, for as long as they are getting their income from purely compensation, so this form will be used in filing, okay, to the BIR. So again, please take note of the source of income here is only from compensation. So this return shall be filed basically by the resident citizen, okay, who are deriving their income from compensation from all sources. Okay, so whether they are getting their compensation income from abroad or from other country, but the point is this is in the form of compensation still. So except for this, for the following. Okay, so here these are the individuals who may not use this form. Okay, so an individual whose taxable income does not exceed 250,000. Okay, because we all know that in our new tax table, graduated income tax rate, if your income do not exceed 250,000, then you will not pay any taxes. Okay, there is another form, I think, for this type of individual income tax, or individual taxpayers. Second is individual with respect to pure compensation income as defined, okay, in section 32. So the income tax on which has been correctly withheld. So meaning your employer have already set aside a portion of your salary, okay, for withholding taxes. So in this case, they will be the one to remit that and file that to the BIR. Okay, so provided that an individual deriving compensation currently from 2 or more employers at any time during the taxable year shall file. So in this case, for example, if you are having 2 or more employers who pays you for your job or work, then that is the time that you will file this BIR form 1700. Okay. Number 3, an individual whose sole income has been subjected to final withholding tax. So of course, this it's like if your income is subject to final withholding tax, basically this is a different type of tax, okay, aside from income from compensation. So probably you may have earned it from a passive income. So basically we have a fixed rate for that. So that's different. And you are going to use a different BIR form, I think. And number 4, a minimum wage earner, okay, or an individual who is exempt from income tax. So this is like number 1 item where your taxable income do not exceed 250,000. So this return is so these 4 types of income earners: individual whose taxable income do not exceed 250, those who have withholding taxes, and those income who has been subjected to final withholding tax. So these are the types of income earners who may not use the BIR form 1700. So basically they will use another form, okay, in filing in the BIR. So this return, our BIR form 1700, will be filed on or before April 15 of each year, okay, which covers income for the preceding taxable year. So this is usually the deadline for filing of the income tax return for the previous taxable year. Okay, so this is what our BIR form 1700 looks like. Okay, so it has some items, okay, which the taxpayer needs to fill in. Okay, we have there the year, okay, the TIN or taxpayer identification number for the background information of the taxpayer or the filer. Okay, so the taxpayer type, of course, this is if you are an employee, okay, or non-resident alien not engaged in trade or business. Okay, so you also have to write your name, okay, registered address, date of birth, email ad, zip code, citizenship, contact number, civil status, and if you are claiming foreign tax credit, okay, in the case of non-resident alien, okay, and their foreign tax number if that is applicable, as well as the civil status, okay. So those are the basic background information on taxpayer or filer that the taxpayer needs to fill in. Okay, part 2 of our BIR form 1700 is about the background information on the spouse in the case of a married income taxpayer. Okay, so part 3, so this is where our taxable income and tax due will be determined. Okay, so basically, an individual, if married, they can file separate or combined BIR form 1700. Okay, but in this case, you can also, or the taxpayer can also combine, okay, their filing together with their spouse if that is the case. So for part 3, so we have here the line item for the tax due, okay, and then we will deduct the total tax credit, okay, or payments made previously, or those which can be deducted, okay, by the taxpayer from their tax due. Okay, so tax due basically is, this is the this is the income tax payable already, which was computed. Okay, so after deducting any tax credit or previously paid tax, okay, on the tax due, so the result of that is what we call the net tax payable. Okay, it can be an overpayment, or meaning overpayment, this can, the taxpayer can claim this in the next taxable year as tax credit, okay, if they have overpaid. their taxes for this taxable year. And if the result is the tax due is greater than the total tax credit or payment, then the taxpayer will still pay for their taxes. That's net tax payable. Okay, so after which the taxpayer can also deduct a portion of tax payable which is allowed in the second installment. Okay, and after that, this will be the amount of tax payable already. So in the case where the taxpayer filed late, okay, so there are penalties that he needs to pay on top or in addition of the tax payable. So this can be the surcharges, interest, and compromises. Okay, so this will be added to the income tax payable if in the case where the taxpayer have filed their ITR late. Okay, so that will be the total payable. Okay, so they can also aggregate their amount or taxable amount, okay, together with their spouse, if that is the case. Okay, so the part 4 will be for the details of the payment. Okay, so this will reflect what type of payment does the taxpayer have chosen, okay, in paying their taxes. Okay, so aside from those, we also have page 2, okay, for BIR form number 1700. Okay, so part 5 is the computation of the tax. Okay, so this is what we have prepared in our previous module. Okay, so gross compensation income, okay, less non-taxable or exempt compensation, which is equal to 250,000. So that will be gross taxable compensation. And then if the entity has other taxable non-business or profession income, they have also to add it. Okay, so together with that, if the taxpayer will add their net taxable compensation income together with other taxable income, so that will be the total taxable income. Okay, and after which it will also here, after applying the appropriate rate, okay, so that will be their tax due later on. So here, part 5B, this is subject to 25% flat rate for, this is in the case of non-resident area not engaged in trade or business. Part 5C, so this is credit payment. So this is what we have been talking about earlier. If there are taxes withheld or the taxpayer have paid or overpaid their tax due in the previous taxable year, or if there are any foreign tax credit that is applicable, okay, to be deducted from their income tax due. Okay, so this is the section right here. And part 6 is the schedule, okay, for the taxpayer spouse, okay, and their employer's TIN, okay, and others such as their compensation income. So in the case where the taxpayer may opt to file their ITR together with their spouse. So here in this form, the tax table or the graduated tax table is also provided as a reference. Okay, so this is our BIR form number 1700 for individuals who are earning purely compensation income. Okay, so after determining or presenting the BIR form 1700, I mean, so let us proceed with the documentary requirements. So what are the requirements in filing BIR form 1700? So we have the following. First is the certificate of income tax withheld if in the case where the employer withholds a portion of the salary of their employee. Okay, so that is BIR form 2316. Okay, aside from that, other requirements will be the duly approved tax debit memo if that is applicable. Another is proof of foreign tax credit if that is also applicable. And number 4, income tax return which was previously filed in proof of payment if filing an amended return for the same taxable year, meaning there is some changes. Okay, so you have to attach your original or initial ITR filing. Okay, so we will discuss what is this BIR Form 2316 and other documentary requirements for to guide us, okay, and understand what are these documentary requirements are. So for the certificate of compensation or payment of the tax withheld for compensation payment, so this is with or without tax withheld. Okay, so this is what we call BIR Form 2316. So this is a certificate to be accomplished and issued to each employee receiving their salaries, wages, and other forms of remuneration, okay, from their employer. This indicates therein that the total amount paid and the taxes withheld during the calendar year. So this certificate in turn should be attached to the BIR Form 1700. Okay. To be issued to pay on or before January 31 of the next year. So for example, our taxable year is 2021. So this certificate should be issued to the employees on or before January 31 of 2022. Okay, so in which the compensation was paid, or in cases where there is termination of employment, it is issued on the same day of the last payment of their wages. Okay, so what about tax debit memo? So this debit memo, this is a legal authority which authorizes the utilization of the tax credit certificate. So this is to be used as a proof that the payment to customs duties and tax obligation of the holder with the Bureau of Customs, that they paid the necessary taxes, okay, to the national internal revenue obligations. To the national internal revenue, okay, these obligations. Okay, so this will be attached, okay, together with BIR Form 1700 to make sure that whatever income they may have earned from these transactions, the taxes related to that were already paid for to the BIR. Okay, so we have here the example. This is the BIR Form number 2316. Okay, so this is the title of this form is Certificate of Compensation Payment or Tax Withheld. So in this form, BIR form, we have here the details for the taxable year, okay, the TIN number, employer's name, registered address, local home address, foreign address if applicable. We also have here for the details about the compensation, income, and tax withheld from the present employer. Okay. Part 2 is employer information. Okay. Part 3 is employer information. Part 4 is the summary, okay, of the computation of the income tax due, okay, and the taxes withheld from the employee. Okay, and of course, the employee should sign in this certificate, okay, as a proof that they have understood and they were informed of the amount of taxes withheld, okay, from their salary throughout the taxable year. So basically, if you are an employee, this form 2316 is prepared by your accountant. Okay, so all you have to do as an employee is to sign, okay, and be given the copy of this BIR form. Okay, so this is accomplished by your accountant or accounting department. Okay, so those are the different documentary requirements in filing to the BIR if you are an individual who earns purely compensation income. So what about the procedures? So how to file your income tax return to the BIR? So we have here the following. For electronic filing payment system, or what we call EFPS, okay, so these are the procedures. First, you have to fill up the applicable fields in the BIR form, which we shown earlier, 1700. Second is to pay electronically by clicking the Proceed Payment button and fill up the required fields in the electronic filing and payment system. Okay, and then after that, you will click Submit button. Basically, you have to log into the BIR platform to be able to file and make this necessary procedures. Okay, and letter C, receive payment confirmation from the payment system for successful e-filing and e-payment. So you will be informed if your transaction was approved and was valid. Okay, that is a confirmation of their receipt. In the case of a filer who is non-EFPS filer, meaning in this case they are manually filing and paying their taxes to the BIR. So these are the procedures. So first, they will fill up the applicable fields in the BIR form 1700. So they can download it, okay, from the website of BIR and then print it, okay, and then they will proceed to the nearest authorized agent bank or AB. There, aside from paying directly to the BIR, the income taxpayer can also pay their taxes in the bank, but there are bank or selected bank, okay, by the BIR where we can pay our income taxes. So that's authorized agent bank. So under this jurisdiction of the Revenue District Officer, where you are registered, and you will present the duly accomplished BIR Form 1700 when you pay to the bank, okay, along with the other required attachments such as BIR 2316 or debit memo if that is applicable. So in places where there are no authorized agent bank, then the taxpayer can proceed to the Revenue Collection Officer or to the duly authorized city or municipal treasurer located within the Revenue District Office where the taxpayer is registered, and they will present this BIR Form 1700s together with other requirements and the payment. Or they can also go directly to the nearest BIR district office near them, okay, to pay for their taxes. And lastly, they will receive a copy of the duly stamped and validated form from the teller of the bank or revenue collection officer or duly authorized city or municipal treasurer that they indeed filed and paid their taxes on time. Okay, so that's how the taxpayer will file if they are filing it manually. Okay, so actually number 3 is also a manual filer. So this is just like the same with number 2. So here, if the taxpayer will fill in the BIR Form 1700 in triplicate copies, proceed to the Revenue District Officer, okay, where they are registered, and they will present the BIR Form 1700 together with the other requirements or attachment, and they will receive a copy duly stamped and validated. So the difference with number 2 and number 3 is in number 3 they directly pay their taxes to the this Revenue District Officer in the nearest BIR office, okay, where they are registered. But in number 2, the taxpayer can pay in the authorized agent bank. But if you are a manual filer in number 3, you will pay directly to the Revenue District Officer, okay? But I think this is just the same, okay? What about date of filing? So as mentioned earlier, so the deadline is on every 15th of April of the next year, or you can file on or before the deadline, okay, which is April 15 of each year, covering taxable income for the calendar year 2018 and thereafter, or meaning if our taxable year is 2017, then the deadline for filing is until April 15, 2018. Okay, so every April 15th of the next year. So that is the deadline. So, but of course, you have to file it on or before the deadline, so that you will avoid paying interest, surcharges, and other penalties. Okay, so those are for our filing of income tax return if you are an individual who is earning purely compensation income.